Jonathan here from Visual Space Curators. Guys, I want to welcome all of you to part 2 of our video that we actually been doing a series of Archicad for beginners from part 1. Now this is what happened in our part 1 of the video where we made a floor plan from scratch. Now we are going to have the part 2 where we're actually going to model and have a final like this. And then later on we're also going to do a render, which is going to be the part 3 of our video. So for the part 2 of this video, is going to be basically modeling the project from the floor plan, from the level that we finished it, which was doing the drawings and presentation to the client. So from that level, we're going to do what we now call modeling of the project from the start up to where we reach at the stage of making it ready for a 3D model. So please hop into this. You can give us a subscribe, like, and follow us also on TikTok, on various platforms. So Visual Space Creators here. Let's dive into this. Actually, this is what we did yesterday, and what I usually like to do is I really like to work my model on a different part of the layout, because like I told you, we have a big template here. All of this is a template. This is a big template for us to work in, and we can be able to do anything we want in this template. So what I would like to do is this is the marquee tool, and like I told you, what the marquee tool actually does is it gives you an opportunity to select something in a specific area. Let me just give you an example. If I wanted to select everything in this space, I can just click on Ctrl A and I'll select everything, including this layout here, including the building, the text, and this reference image. But however, what a marquee tool does is it helps us to select something specific in a specific part of the plan. For example, if I wanted to choose only objects in this plan, by objects I mean the beds, the table, the toilets. So I'll come and draw a marquee tool around. Then I make sure I have my object tool selected here. You can either select it by choosing this, or you can hold on down the Alt key and you pick on an object. And once you do that, you click on Ctrl A. It will select only objects and isolate and leave behind all the other things. So that's what a marquee tool does. And a marquee tool, actually there are of two types. When you come under a marquee tool, you're going to see there's one that's bold. This one that I've just drawn is very bold. You can even zoom and see it's bold. And then there's one that's a bit faint. So when I click on the faint one, it's just thin lines. And what that means is that when you use a thin line marquee tool, it means it only selects what is on a particular level. For example, if we had another level up, like if we had a roof on top of this house at the moment, and you wanted to select everything, including the ones on this current plan, the ones below and the ones above, you use the thick marquee tool. That one selects everything below and above. If you use the thin one, it only picks things in this layer. But now, the reason why I was just trying to explain to you what a marquee tool does. But in this particular case, I want to drag this plan to this part of the layout, this side. So I'm going to come and draw a marquee tool around it. I just drag it with our normal command, the one we've been using before. Ctrl-Shift-D, that is dragging a copy. Or you can right-click in space, and then you can right-click out here, and then you come to move. Then drag a copy. Then you click once. You can hold on Shift to make sure that you're moving in a straight line, and then you want to bring it far away from the other things. So this is where we are going to do our modeling from, this particular part of the plan. So now I'm going to also use the marquee tool to open our 3D view. So I'm going to click on the marquee tool, and then I'm going to hit the F5 key on my keyboard. In case you didn't know that, the F5 key actually helps you to open whatever you select in a 3D view. So when you do that, it will only open that part alone. You see, if I center everything, I'm only having this part opened alone. However, if you just go to the 3D view, for example, let me say if I close this off, and then I just come and go to the 3D view, it opens up everything. You see, this will open everything in that layout, and that's what I don't want to do. I only want to open the plan we are going to work on, that alone. I want to come back to our plan. I'm going to draw the marquee tool around it again. I just want to capture a wider area, and I click F5 to open it in 3D view. That once that happens, So what I'm going to do is I've already seen this is the plan, and for this particular plan, I want to intend to do it mostly like how people call it a flat roof design. So what happens is I usually start my modeling right from the ground. So the first things first, I first put a floor slab in my building, all around in my building. And then one thing I want to mention is that you people, I think there's a live we did some time back, I think like 2 or 3 days ago, whereby I told you that when you're modeling in Archicad or even any other modeling software, what matters is output of the work, because the client is not there to watch you do the process, the overall process of how you come up with the things. So one thing I just want to mention to you before we go further is that you can all notice that in this live of yesterday, I didn't put anything like a beam in this building. I didn't put anything like a column in this building, but still we have our structure up and it looks neat. So what reason why I'm doing that is sometimes those things waste our time when we are designing and modeling. But if you know the basics of design, if you know what's supposed to go where, life becomes easy for you actually. So I just wanted you to be aware of that, because it will take you a lot of time to actually put beams around here, put a beam, put a column, like putting all those elements. And yet at the end of the day, when you build your house, nobody is going to look at a column from outside unless you leave it exposed intentionally. Nobody is also going to be looking at the beam from outside. So all in all, what I'm trying to mean is that what matters at most is the outlook of the building, the total finish you have on the outside. Okay, like I said, what I want to do is I mostly start with my floor slab. So I already have a floor slab here. I'm going to use this same floor slab, and the things you need to note is that these floor slabs, at least you do a thickness of 200 millimeters thick. So I'm going to set the width up here. I mean the thickness of our slab to 200 millimeters. And please note that I'm not using the slab with a composite whatever. I'm just using a slab that is simple, a simple slab with one material running all through. Secondly, I want to set this slab at the 0 level. That means it's the floor inside the building. And then I'm going to set the reference plane to the top of the slab. So that means on top of the slab, that is where I'm taking as my 0 level of the building. I'm going to put there 0, and then the slab type I usually like to choose is concrete 2 for my material. I don't know what you prefer or what material settings you have for your own, but me, that's what I use. Then I want to click and I want to also come here and uncheck the fill, because I just use fills on slabs at the balconies. The other parts I don't use fills. So now I'm going to start by drawing from this corner, and I'm going to use this geometry method of polygonal, going one by one. So because I have so many corners, I'm going to start by this. I'm going to come in here to this corner. I'm going to move to this corner here. Just watch me do. And meanwhile, as I'm doing this, I'm holding on my shift key to make sure that my lines are moving straight in line so that I don't make errors. So holding on shift while you're doing this is very, very important. So finally, this is my slab. When I select it, it will be as my slab is already has covered the whole building. And I want you to note one thing. I'm not putting my slab going past the wall outside, because once you do that, it gives you now we have another challenge. Let me show you what I mean. If I come in my 3D here, I will see that yes, I have a floor slab inside. That's a floor slab. But however, the slab is not showing outside here. So that means what I'm doing here is I'm working as if I'm building a house, but then a finished house. So by this, what I mean is that this floor slab, just in case if I were to bring it out here, just assume if this slab was to extend outside, because actually most people normally send me drawings when I do for them some renders, and I find out actually most of them let their floor slabs come out like this. I think you get what I mean. What I normally do when I'm modeling is, let me cut for you a section through. If you just look at this, actually this slab I made it 300, it's supposed to be 200. Okay, it's now 200. So what happens is that when I'm doing my project, this is my zero level for the floor. I start from my zero level and I put my walls intentionally. Now, when I'm doing my height of the building, for example, here my floor to floor height is 3.5 meters. And then intentionally, I usually let my walls from the ground floor go deep down by 1 meter intentionally. This helps me to do my foundation, and this helps me to do another thing that's below the ground. So I intentionally make sure that my building goes down by 1 meter, and then the floor slab starts from 0. As you can see, that's why I always use what we call the reference plane for the slab. I use the top of the slab, not the bottom of the slab. Because if you use the bottom of the slab, for example, here, if I change it to bottom of the slab, now my height of the building will be affected. But to avoid that, what you do is you change it to the top of the slab. So your slab will be at 0 level exactly, but going downwards. This overlap, like I said, most cases I just make it be inside. So my floor slab, basically my floor slab is just passing in the inner walls of the building. But when I'm doing my section, I show it that actually it overlaps, it crosses the walls over. That's why I told you the use of the fields are now important at that stage of detailing. Okay, once I do this, once I have my floor slab, the next thing I want to do is always I want to do my ground down. So before I do that, I also want to put my steps that lead to the building inside the building. So for the steps, I'm going to put my steps here of 300 millimeters wide. The landing, how do you call it? The tread and the riser. So I'll put 300. And then my step, I'm going to move it down. Let me just change the thickness of the slab here to 150. And then I want to move my step to start from down here. So I'm going to click on Ctrl U to multiply at least I want 2 to 3 steps. So I'm going to do Ctrl U. And I bring this here. I think this is enough. Yes. So I'll group my steps, Ctrl G to group them. And then I'm going to start dragging them down one by one. Ctrl D, I move this one. I uncheck this one, then I move this again also 1. It has not moved properly. Let me move it again. Ctrl D, I move it downwards. And then maybe let's do a last one, but I'm not sure if it's important because this is 300, 450. Okay, yeah, I think that's maybe too much. Let me remove one step away. And then what I want to do is, because of course after you finish construction, this is going to be built up fully, so you don't even need to go and waste time to do a little wall underneath and so on. Like I told you, what matters is you delivering the work, not how you delivered the work. So all I want to do is just come and drag these steps down, these slabs down, and I make sure that they fill up this space. So once I do this is going to help me get my base for the ground or the formation level or the final floor down. And then I'm going to come and go and do a slab again, because now my building needs to sit somewhere. It needs to have a space where it can sit. So I'm going to go and check my slab settings. I want to use a slab of grass. I'm going to type and look for grass. And then I'm going to set the thickness. The floor slab I wanted to put is for the site or to put a base on which our building sits, because you can't model in space. So I'll put the thickness to 500, and then I'm just going to change here the settings, that textures down to earth, that is soil, but you can leave it in grass, it's also okay. And then I like to give it a feel, just a feel of a solid feel. And then like I told you before, I have a custom palette for my pens and my colors. So what I'm using here is actually a custom palette. So I already have my settings for the colors, the pen weights, and the colors to use. So you might have a different one, but that's okay. Me, I use this one. So I just want to draw a bigger site here, and then I select the site, I right click on it, and I move it display order, and I send it to the back. After sending it to the back, you can go ahead and decide to cut it through along the buildings. That's such that it doesn't interfere with whatever is in the building. So I'm just going to cut out this. They might ask me, why not using a mesh tool? Because I know there are some people who use a mesh tool to actually do their site or their surface of the land. Yeah, but like I told you, it all comes down to what works for you easily and what, because it's at the end of the day, it's the final work that matters, not how you got the work done. So if you go to the 3D, this is how it will be like. So your house will be sitting on a base down. So like I was saying, so some people like to use a mesh, which is not bad. You could still come and select your mesh tool, draw a mesh. The reason why actually I put the slab all over the whole place is because this project, we don't have a particular site to work with. But if I had a site to work with, I'll put two different types of slabs. One slab representing the grass in that particular site, and another for the entire plane outside. But I didn't do that because this project we are doing doesn't have a specification of the site size and what we're supposed to work with. I just did it on a random plain space. That's why I just put the slab all over. But that's not the site, how big it's supposed to be. Yeah. Okay. So now most cases when I have a plan like this and I want to do a flat roof design, because I want to do this as a flat roof design. So I first come at the floor plan and I look at the floor plan. I personally, I have a look at the floor plan, and it gives me an idea of how to break my roof into, to have the specific design that I want. And then after identifying that, you also need to know where will your roof drain. Yes, identify all that. Now I'm going to tell you something. Because I told you guys this is a project that I've ever done before, just not to waste time, I'm going to give you a simplest of how I actually had to identify. So first of all, I wanted this building to be in a way that this part here in the middle is a bit higher, because it's going to be like a flat roof design. So this part is going to be higher. This part is going to be the next level. So I wanted this and this to be at the same level, and this one to be a little bit lower. Then I'm left with the part at the back. So this is what I did. I looked at my floor plan and I identified. I said, okay, if I want this part of the building here, if I want this part of the building here to be high alone, this region here, its own roof. This region will have its own roof. This region here will have its own roof also. This one will have its own roof, but all of them are having a common wall here to lean against. And then finally we have this roof here, so of its own. That's because I wanted them to be, to have their different heights accordingly. And by achieving those different heights in design, it means you have to somewhere have parapet walls that are running around. So I'm going to start with this. Actually, let me start with the balcony space outside. For the balcony, I'm going to put here a wall that's going to run like this. So now this naturally will just be the wall at the balcony. And this wall, it's actually going to act as our beam. Like I told you, I don't need to go and put a beam when I know the final finish will just be a paint. So I'm just going to come and make this a beam, and I give it a height, and I change the height from -1000 to 2.6, because that's where our beam level is, at 2.6. No, actually our beam level is supposed to be at 2.9 actually. Yeah, because we are using what? Height of 3.5. And then I want to come here and change this always make sure you check this where there's floor plan display, you change it to projected with overhead, because when you do that, it will allow you to be able to see your wall which is above but on this floor plan. So whereas my wall is above but it's still on this floor plan here. So when you come in 3D, you're going to have something like this. Now you can see what we've done with that one move of the wall is now we have a beam that's going to be invisible, which is inside. And at the same time, we also have an overbeam, a wall that we build on top of the beam. So we already have that. Now I want to come and put a roof here on this particular part here. And now as you're designing, you also your brain is always at work constantly, thinking, so if I put this roof here, where will I drain this roof? Because flat roof houses have that issue of drainage. So in this particular situation, what I did with my design was I had to drain my roof this way. I'm going to show you. You come in the roof tool, you choose this lean to roof option. Let the roof be at 3.5. I'm going to give it an angle of at least 7 degrees. And then this is going to be my baseline of the roof. And my roof is going to come from here up to here. So if you go in your 3D, you have a roof that's pouring this side. So, but remember, I have a corner here. So this corner here is where I'm planning to put my gutter of the roof. Let me come up and do a parapet wall. Let me turn on the trace, and then I'll also choose my trace reference to be below the current story. So when I do that, I'm going to come and put a wall here. I'm going to go to the wall settings. Now this wall will not be linked. I'm going to put this at 0, and I want it to be at a height of at least 1.2 meters because it's going to be the highest part of the building. So okay, so now this is my highest part of the building. I already have it higher. Now, like, what I want to do next is I want to give it a coping on top of it. So for my copings, you guys all know like what I normally do. I select the wall, I drag a copy of it on top of the current wall. After having it on top of the current wall, you just offset it by 50 millimeters on both sides, and you reduce the thickness and you give it a texture. So I'm going to do a copying on top of this. I'll drag it up and place it here, and then I go to the settings of this particular wall. So I'm going to change the height of this to 50 millimeters, the thickness to 300 millimeters, and then I want to change the material to titanium white. Then I click OK. So I have a copying on top of my parapet wall. Then, so now that I have this roof flowing down here, now these kinds of roof, what we normally do with them is they usually drain through valley boxes, and of course I know many people normally discourage this kind of design. Many clients be like, I can't do this, I don't want to do this roof and so on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look for an alternative or a way of how to drain this roof, but in a smart way, because I also have another roof that is here and I also plan to drain it the same direction. I'll come back to my roof tool and I do another roof here that also drains to this direction here. Yeah, so now we have our roofs. Now there's this roof and this other roof. They're all draining to the same point. So that means we need to find a way to drain this roof here. And what do I do for such a situation? What I normally do is, let me just create a wall here, a parapet wall. Why can't I draw the wall? What's wrong with my wall tool? Okay, it's here. Okay, so now I have another parapet wall here, but like I said earlier on, I want this to be the highest point of my roof, this to be the lower, this to be lower than the other one. So I'm going to change its height to 800 millimeters. So we now have something like this. So what you want to do is you're going to come, okay, let's just say this wall is not here. and these roofs are going to be draining. We shall do here a concrete slab at this part of the roof, and we want it to drain directly outside the building, not inside the building. So what I did, because I told you I already did this work. So what I did in my design was I came and got a wall. I changed it to 100 millimeter. Okay, let's just have it at 200 millimeter, which is okay. I did what we call let me just do it here. So I'll first get rid of this. I'm going to select this wall, Control D. I want to extend it here inside a little bit. This wall will come here, and then I'm going to have distance here of about 500 millimeter. Actually, let me do 500 millimeters in here to have something like this. So what I did next was to pull this wall all the way up to somewhere here, and then this wall gives me a design of this sort. You see, now after having this kind of design, you will now notice that actually our gutter is going to be placed directly here, and it will all drain outside. So now this will become a duct. So now this becomes a duct, but it's going to become a bigger duct now, where our roof will drain from. And then also here at the balcony, let me just bring this out a little bit. Okay, here. So at the balcony here, we also have a roof here. So this roof is going to be a low angle roof, moving slightly just. So this roof at the balcony, you can still have it. Now at the balcony, it's all up to you. If you want to drain it towards the building, it's okay. Or drain it towards outside. But I think even if you drain it towards towards the building might be much better. So this roof, because we have our beam here, let's assume if this was our beam. Oh, I still have another wall in here. Let me delete this wall. Okay, so let's assume that this is our beam. If we had a beam of 200 millimeters high, okay, let's say 200 is fair. So I'll make sure that my roof actually sits somehow on top of the beam, because it's just a low angle roof. Actually, this roof, you can choose to do it both ways. Either it powers here and then you do a gutter this side, or you can do it the other way around and it powers on this other side. So I just prefer to put it that side, but you could also do it this other way around. You can still select it on the floor, and then you mirror it to this side. I want to take back my wall back to 600 millimeters, and I see if the height really fits the roof in. If it doesn't, because we can still have this roof at 5 degrees, because it was 7, you can still have it at 5 degrees, and then you can go ahead and do a coping on top of this. You come to your settings again, change this height to 50 millimeters, make it the wall thickness to 300, and then change the material to titanium white. So we have something like this now. You see, our building is picking up shape properly. And then for this design here, I'm going to come and make its height properly. So I'm going to have our front elevation here and select this, open this view. And then I'm going to get what you call a guideline from the floor level. I hover my mouse, my cursor on the guideline, and then I just click on. I move it up and I type in D. After putting in D, so I want this to be as high as maybe 5.5 meters. So that means my wall, actually even 5.5 might be too much. Maybe let me bring it down by 300. Okay, there. So now this will help me to adjust the height of my wall. I want to change this wall into a stone wall, to give us a a design in wall. So I'm going to come and change the material here to stone. So I'm going to use stone, sandstone. So I'll use this stone like this. So I'm going to go ahead and also put a parapet wall here. I mean a coping on this wall. Control Shift D, I drag a copy, I place on top of this. I go to the wall settings as I always do. I change the height to 50 millimeters and the width to 300 millimeters wide. And then I change the texture to titanium white. So I click enter. Now that will be my coping on top of that wall. Now the next step is for us to come to this other wall here also, and how we should find a way also to drain it properly. So I'm going to use the same design I used on this other side. I want to drain this roof here. I also want to drain this roof here. So I'm going to drain them on like how I just did on these ones both. So if this is draining here, let me just get rid of. Okay, let me leave that there. So let me come back to my roof tool here. I'm going to select this and I give it a roof. Now the roof will pour on this side, and also here I need to do a roof that will also pour on this other side. Okay, so I have my two roofs of this design. Okay, so I'm also going to go on my first floor up and I do a parapet wall. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm also going to provide a duct here to drain this water out. What I need to do is now we're going to have an issue here because I want to have my duct at this exact position. So I'm going to put my valley here. So I want this to be like 300 millimeters off. And then I'm going to make it 600 millimeters wide. Okay, so if I'm going to drain my roof here, I'm going to have to do something like this. At this point also, it's going to be a design that I'm going to put here because its primary function will be to house our down drainage pipe, but at the same time it will be giving us beautiful aesthetics on the building. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to do something like this at this particular spot on the building, but this won't be as high as that. So I'm going to come in my section and I want to see where my roof is. So I'm going to cut a section here and I see through. So my roof level is kind of high here. So that means I realize that my roof is draining at this level here. So that means my roof, my how they call it, the roof, the down pipes are going to start from this level here, the valley. So I'm going to give a height of about 600 to this wall. So I'm going to start my wall from down here. I'm going to drag down by D 100, and then I'm going to get a line, just a guideline, just to do a guideline from the base of this to the top. I want it to be 600 millimeters. So I'm going to type 600, and then I'm going to reduce the height of this wall. Let me do this here. I'm going to reduce the height of this wall up to here. Okay, it looks too high. Why does it look too high? Let me see. Let me go back to the section. I think this is a bit high. Let me bring it down a bit. Let me bring it down like 200. And then I'm going to come and get my reference line here, D, and I'm going to drag it down by 600. So that means this wall is going to start from here, and then the height will end here. Then if I go to the 3D, so this design will be here like this. Even this will be here like this, and all these ones. So now we shall have something like this, and I'll want to put a lighting underneath it. Lighting underneath it to just give it that a beautiful look. And then these walls are going to be lower a little bit, maybe to 600. Then I'm going to come and drag this wall to join up here. Whenever you design something on your building, first of all, you as the architect who is designing it, you need to know how will this be built on ground. If you don't have a solution for building it on ground, then don't design it. Because someone will see that I've designed this. Well, of course, the main purpose of this is to act as a duct for me to drain here. But no, of course, you can't just leave it as a duct hanging in space. So that's why I did all of this design. And when you're doing this, make sure that it is as cheap as possible. That's why I propose it to be using small blocks of 100 millimeters thick. So you don't need to do something so big. And then we shall also do here something like a slab underneath to cover up that space. But all in all, you need to know and make sure that you can actually be able to build it if you were asked to do it as the owner. So before you go and design anything on a building, know ways of doing it, and then also know ways of how you can explain to people on how to build it. So I'm going to cover up this with a slab. I'm just going to change the reference line to the bottom. Then I'm going to reduce the height to like 50 millimeters thick because it's not a load bearing slab. So make it as small and as cheap as possible. So I want to give it the same material. So this material is called porcelain. I'm going to come and give it a porcelain finish here. So now another thing I'm going to tell you is I'm going to cover up here just to close this off and make it one uniform design. Of course, this part up here can be built in brick. I think we all know that. If you have your iron bars, you can lay them across, lay bricks on top, and you slab it up. I think that's possible. So that's what I was saying. Make sure it is as cheap as possible. So our roof will drain here. Even that roof will drain at this same point. And then I want to do a parapet here. Actually, even before I do that, now we have the final part of our roof. So here we don't have a roof at this point. So what I did particular for this part is I had to drain my roof along the center line of the building. And in doing that, choose your roof, and then you're going to do a roof here that's going to pour in this particular line. Okay, so we have this roof going to drain here. At the same time, we shall do a roof that moves from here and drains that side. So yeah, we have something like this. And finally, you want to come and do a parapet around this also. Just come and select your wall tool, come at the edge of the roof, hold on your space bar, and you click. You have a wall that has gone around. And then you just offset the edges of that wall. Offset out by 100 millimeters. And your wall is sitting perfectly there. So I'm going to delete away this part. I don't need this. Then of course, if this can come higher or lower, why not? Have it at that height and let it join up here. Oh, let me change that roof to 5 degrees and see. Because I want to achieve here a different height. I want this to be a little bit lower and this to be a little bit higher. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 200 onto this to become 1 meter. I want to move this wall a little bit here to this edge and join it to this. Such that we have this joined here. Okay, so at least we are now somewhere with our design. So like I told you, if I'm to put a parapet wall on top of this, I'm going to click on Ctrl-Shift-D, I drag a copy of this particular wall, I place it on top of this, then I'm going to come in the wall settings, I change the height to 50 millimeters or to whatever height you want for your copying on top of the wall. And then you're going to come and give the width to 300 millimeters, and then you change the color. The color I usually use is titanium white, and I hit enter. So I have a parapet wall. I have a copy on top of my parapet wall, just like that. So I just want to make this wall a little bit higher, and then I'm also going to push it back a bit. It will enter a little bit inside. And then I'm going to put a slab on top of it. And this slab, I'm going to change the reference to below. And then I'm going to offset the surfaces of this by 500 to move outwards to give us this feeling. You see, when you offset it out a little bit on both sides. So I'm going to type in 50 and I have something like this. Maybe add another 50 to make it 100 on both sides. I think 50 was okay. Let me just make this one thick. Actually, I want to make it 75 millimeters high. You shall need to do a column at the corner here. What you're going to do next is now to give it colors, proper colors. And then also these heights are supposed to be 2.9, not 2.6. Then if you're going to ask me how I'm planning to drain this roof, now in this bathroom here, I'm going to put a duct here in this bathroom. So I'll just move this window a little bit down. Then I'm going to put a service duct here. Because we now have this duct to drain our roof here. We shall do another duct here to drain our toilet. We shall have another duct in the shower here. Then we have another duct here. So I'll come on my roof plan and I just locate where my drainage will be. I'm going to use this line and this. So I go back on my ground floor plan and I'm going to draw a duct here. What happens is this roof will actually have two drainage gutters. One in this bathroom here. That's if it drains from here, one is going to flow this ends and then another one is going to flow from this bathroom. So at least we have two outlets for water. So I'm going to put here 100, and then also drag a copy of this here, make this out by 100. So at least in the middle we have something like 400, I think. Something big enough. I want it to be actually 500, such that it's as big as possible. Okay. So from the surface here, all the way inwards, we do 400, 500 actually. No, 450. So you're going to come and change this texture here to paint 02. I'm going to link it to my roof by 0, and then have something like that. That's going to be draining from inside. And then also I'll do the same thing on the other side. Okay, this is going to be 1,400. Yeah. This is 1,350. And then I want it to have 2 basins still. I'm going to give it 2 basins. Part of this roof can be drained into this gutter, and then it is passed through the floor slab to go out directly. So at least we have 2 sides of drainage, so that when it rains heavily, at least we have enough outlet for the water. For the floating steps, easy to do floating steps. If you want to do a floating step, all you need to know is how the floating steps work. It's just an overlap of about 50 to 75 millimeters, and then you put a strip light underneath. So if you want to do a floating step, you're going to make sure that at least you make this bigger. So I'm going to make this bigger by 100. Let me just put a planter here, and then our floating step can carve into the planter actually. Let me just do a planter. I'm going to do a planter with wall. I'm going to do a simple planter here like this. So that will be our planter. Then I'm just going to reduce on the height of the planter. I'm going to bring it down to our floor level, actually to the level of the slab here. And then I want these steps to carve in into the planter. So if you want to do a floating step, we're going to bring this out by 300 here. bring this out by 600. Then you do this, you cut this off here, then you push this to touch that part. So that when you do your floating step, at least it's curved around something. It's not just hanging in space. So I'm going to come and do here one step of 50 millimeters, and I drag it up to the end here. I change the thickness to 50 millimeters also. You have something like this. But if you want a bigger overlap, you can still do a big overlap. I'm just going to do a simple one. So for this next one, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to select this, Ctrl-Shift-D, I drag a copy of this, I put on top of here. Yeah, Ctrl-Shift-D, drag a copy, place on top of this, and then you change the height. I want to change the height to 50 millimeters. And then you're going to bring it to be in line with this particular one here. And then you offset this edge out by, let's use 50. 50 is okay. Or let's do 100, okay. The same on this side also. Once you do that, and then you reduce this one's height to something like this. That means you also have to do this 100. Now the same thing applies here. Ctrl-Shift-D, drag a copy of this, place it on top of here. Come and change the height to 50 millimeters. And then let it overlap out by 100. And also this side by 100. And then you do Ctrl-D and you place it on top of that slab. So you'll have something like this. I don't know if you're able to see. Something like that. And then if you need to put a strip line under, it is still simple. Get this slab, drag a copy of this, Ctrl-Shift-D, bring it here, change the height to 10 millimeters. After changing it to 10 millimeters, you come underneath here, a little bit here, and you drag it inwards. You drag this inwards by 90. So it becomes as small as this, And then you move it inwards a little bit, like up to here. Let me just see. Or you select it on the floor plan and you look at it properly, and you drag this point. You bring it inside a little bit here, and then you change the material. Give it a different material. Maybe, for example, I want to give it a material called C15, which is actually C13. So I have this here, and then I can multiply this on other parts. I select it here, Ctrl-Shift-D, drag a copy of this. I put it here. It has already come underneath this one. I do the same thing, Ctrl-Shift-D. I pick from this corner, I place on this corner. I have another copy underneath here. So all I just need to go and is to just adjust it on the floor plan. I select this and increase the height, the length here to touch this wall. Then I do Ctrl-Shift-E, drag I rotate a copy of this to this, and I move it. I move the end stop to here, and I cut it off from here. So I'm going to come and cut this off from my wall, and I bring this one inwards a little bit to this part. And then I also do the same thing here. I come and I align the edge to the wall. Then I do Ctrl-Shift-E, that means to rotate a copy of it. And I bring it at the edge of the slab here. I adjust this to come backwards. I adjust this also to come backwards. And finally, I'm going to cut off this. The cut tool is just right at the top of the screen. So when you come in your 3D, you have something like this. So if you go to your rendering software, you can now turn this into a light, and it will give you a very good light. So here we have a planter in which I'll put soil. So I'm going to select a slab. I draw here for my soil. I go to the settings of the slab and I change it to earth. And I click OK. I move it down a little bit, just something like that. So we have our planter with soil, we have our steps with floating light design. And then also here, I would like to do a ceiling underneath here. So for this ceiling, I'm going to select this floor slab, which is already down. Ctrl-Shift-D, I drag a copy of this, and I bring it up here. I change this to this. I come and change the texture, the thickness to 30, the texture to paint glossy white, and the edges I can give the same color here. So select this, I go to the settings, I ungroup this, I go to the edges and I give it paint 02. I'm done. So then I just put my lights underneath there. I think we're good to go there. So we said here we shall do a column here at this point. So I'm just going to do a little design. Let me see here. I'm going to extend this such that at least it will be a column. This is going to be 200. So on ground, we shall do a column that runs from all the way from the wall to come all the way up to outside here. So such that we have something that is holding our suspended beam here correctly. So that's how it will be at that point. And because of course, because we did this here, that means we also need to reduce on the size this side. So I'll come on my floor plan and I extend this back by 200. So I'm going to do this 200 because my aim was to maintain here 600. You see, here I have 600 millimeters. Also on this side I have 600 millimeters. So this is 600, 600, and the same thing applies to the height here is 600. So to be consistent in your design, you need to maintain all those all the way through. Now, underneath this part up here, I'm going to put a strip light to go around. So I'm going to bring this back by 10 millimeters. Then I'm going to come here and I draw a slab of 10. I come and I attach it at this point. I select it and I move it up a little bit by also 10 millimeters. And then I change the texture or the color to a different color that I'm going to assign a lighting material to, maybe something like this. Since we have our height of the beam at 2.9, I'm going to make these windows longer. I'm going to make them about, this is 2 meters. I think, yeah, this should also be 2 meters. And then adjust this. 2 meters, that's going to be 1.6. 1.6, really? Yes. Oh, no, not 1.6. Let me go and set it manually here. I'll come this side. I'll come to my settings of the window. I go to shape. So if I want a louver of 400 millimeters, I'll come here and change this to 600. This becomes 900. Actually, 1 meter. Yeah. So we have something like this. And then I would like to give it also a coping. So how this works is that this window will be opening upwards and the lower part will remain fixed. I think I'll give it a coping. I come here to casting outside and I turn it on. Then I click OK. Actually, let it be a little bit bigger. So you come and change this figure here to 100 millimeters so that it's thick and big enough. Then I'm going to come and do the same thing here. I'll also do the same thing here, here, and here. Okay. And now, finally, I can now go and do. Now let's now assign different colors to the different parts of the building. So I would like this part here to have its own color. This one to be. Oh, before I forget, we have to do a balcony at the back. Yeah, here we have balcony like this. I'm going to offset this inwards by 200 because this is a beam passing exactly at that rear balcony. And then we haven't even done our steps here. So for this rear balcony, I'm going to put here on this roof to drain through here. I'm going to put a duct here, something like a column-like structure here. So I'm going to select this and I offset this by 600 millimeters. And then I cut off here. I cut this wall. After cutting this wall, I'm going to make these ones full walls. So this will be a wall that's going to come all the way from up to down, something like this. At least, yeah, such that our drainage gutter for this particular roof will be placed inside this column. Inside this part here. So I'll come and get my roof. Let me even select this roof here. I select this roof, Ctrl Shift M. I mirror a copy of this roof and I bring it here, this corner. Adjust on both sides. I'm going to adjust this here. And then I bring this one on this side. So we have our roof here, comfortably sitting. And then I want to do a parapet on top of this. So and then finally I'm going to offset it inwards by, because it is 300 in width, I'm going to offset by 150. So we have something like that sitting up there. Oh, 150 really? 75. So I'm going to bring it out by 25. Is it really correctly placed? Let me see. I'm supposed to move it out a little bit by 25 also. 25 millimeters. Yeah, like that now. Now it's okay. And select this on the floor plan. I come and first clear off this part. I don't like my slabs overlapping and going outside the walls. So I'm going to cut off this and have something like this neatly here. And for the steps, I can just come and select here. I pick the slab tool, 300. I bring it up to this point. I give it a thickness of 150. Ctrl U. Do this. Ctrl G. I group them. Ctrl D. I drag down by 150 millimeters. Let me see. Yeah. Ctrl D. Drag this down by 150. And select this. Drag again. And the same applies to this. So then we also have a window here. I didn't put a window here, but it's supposed to have a window. So I'm going to do a window of 1.5 by 1.5. Then I'll offset this window off this wall surface by 500, because that we might do cabinets in that space. So of course those windows at the balconies don't have castings around unless your client wants it by choice. Then you come under shape and you change this shape from now. Since the window is 1.5 by 1.5, I'm going to put this at 1.1. I just want to have a bigger louver up there like that. And then also make sure for kitchen windows, always make sure to come and check the height here, because most cases we do our sinks or the worktops at 900. So if this is your kitchen worktop is going to be here, so you make sure that this height, if it's at 900 or 1 meter, okay, let's say 1 meter at least. And then you always have some space here for backsplash of water. So I'll do this at 300. So that means my window can even extend up to here. You don't have a problem with bringing it up to down here. So at least I have a window of 1.6 by 1.5. We have something like this. Now I want to come and put in my duct openings. For the 3D rendering, of course, in the final drawing, what you see is you're going to see a door with a louvered door. So what people normally do, what I usually do is I usually come and I use a window tool. I use a window tool to create what we call a louvered opening. I come and select this window. I choose one panel only, change this to 3D. And then I'm going to go into my window settings. I'm going to put uniform frame width. I want it to be like 30 millimeters. So it's not going to be, it's going to be made out of metal. So shush type, I'm going to use vent. I'm going to use angle of 45. Then I'm going to go and do the settings here. Just coming to change the material texture. For all metal surfaces, I usually use black. So C15 is my black metal. Even the louvers, I'm going to make them black. And then finally, the reveal, I want to be at the center of that wall. So I'm going to put a reveal of 50. Then I place my window here. So adjust the size of this window on both sides. So it will be a 500 millimeters window. But when you're going to do your drawings on ground, you actually show that it is opening. It is a swinging window. So I mean a door now, because you can't do this material for a door. So you're going to adjust the height here. I'm going to bring it to up to down, up to around here, up to around somewhere here, 3.2. And then also this, I drag it high up to the roof level. At least somewhere there. Actually, it's over the roof level here. So I do the same thing. I select it from that side. I have another duct here where I'll position this. So I'm just going to make it like 400 millimeters. So it will be hidden at the back of this. That's for us to do any, in case of any leakages and so on. This will be used as an inspection door. And then, like I told you, I don't like pipes slinging around my design. So I'm also going to come here and give this bathroom a duct, because this shower is big enough. This is 1.7 meters. So even if you take part of it and make it a drainage duct, it doesn't have a big problem with it. So I'm going to come here and I do the whole of this part. Actually up to here, even I can do it up to here. This I'm going to do by 300. I'm going to put my duct opening here. Come in your 3D, you're going to see this bedroom also has a duct here, so that at least have a clean house. Don't have houses with pipes all over. And then also for the master bedroom, I'm going to put a duct wall here. So I'm going to build this on the outside. So this will be like 600. Yeah, and also please, when you're doing these ducts, make big ducts. Don't make small ducts, because people struggle on site. Actually, if you're a designer, when you're designing, you actually think for many people. You think for the plumber, you're thinking for the structural engineer, you're thinking for many people. So, even you're thinking for the last guy who is building on ground. So whatever you do here is going to impact them as they're constructing. It will impact on the construction. So now at least you now have a duct here, and then you come and put a duct to an opening to your duct, but on this other side of the building, such that when plumbing works are being done, because this will drain directly out here, these ones will drain through the wall to this, and this shower will drain here. And also this pipe for the roof from the building, it's also going to drain through and still go throughout this duct. So okay, so finally we're also going to give this little balcony here a slab. So it's also have a slab. I'm selecting that. I'm coming to pick properties of this. Come and pick properties of this, and then I come and apply to this particular slab here at the back. So once you do that, you have your part covered well. And then for my exterior doors, I like to make them metallic doors. So I'm going to go in my door settings again. Everything else is okay. Yeah, except here. This one is going to be 400mm. That's going to be our louvers. Then you go and choose the style of the door. I like to have a metallic door, like I told you. Just a metallic door with a glass is okay. And then I'm going to come and put the frame thickness equal to the wall thickness. And then at the same time, I'm going to change the sash type. This is the louvers. I'm going to put a louvers of 45 degrees. And then I'm going to change the material. So the material there was wood before. Oh, I think you can all see it was wood. And from wood, I'm going to change it to metal. So I'm going to come and change this to metal, which is C15. And then for the glass is okay. And for the handle is fine. And I click OK. One last thing, I forgot to remove what we call a casting outside for here. So I'm not going to, I don't need it. I'm going to come and look for where there's the word casting outside, and I remove it. And even casting inside, you remove it. Then you click OK. Now you have a simple door like that. Yeah. So, and finally, we're now going to change our colors. So I want this part. Now when you're doing your building design, exterior colors, even interior colors, don't make your work so colorful. Let it not look like a Ugandan flag. First of all, don't make bright colors. Give mild colors. Okay, it depends. If it's like a school or something, you can do bright colors, but the colors need to be with purpose. So don't just go around throwing colors because you've seen colors. No. What you want to do is you're going to go and make sure that at least you have 2 or 3 colors. Now, since it is a residential home, I'm going to go with shades of gray, just intentionally. So what you want to do is, last time I talked about what we call volumes. Now these are what we call volume. This is one volume here. This is another volume that comes out. This is another volume. You see, this is also another different volume. This is another volume. All these. So what you want to do is, those volumes, you're going to make sure that they actually have colors actually go on those parts. So the color you have on one volume, the change in volume is actually what changes, what's an interchange for the color. So for example, now a color like white is mostly a neutral color, so you don't consider it so much. But apart from the white, you can do up to about 2 or 3 colors. That will still be nice and okay. So let me just adjust this. Okay. So I want this color here to be, I want this one to be dark gray. This one in front, dark gray. So I'm going to come here, and there's a color called paint 04 is what I'm going to use. Even here, I'm going to use paint 04. So that means if this is a darker color here, that means this can't be a darker color. It has to be another color. So for now, I'm going to leave this as a lighter color of this shade. Or if I choose to leave this as light, okay, I'll do like this. I'll leave this light in this particular color we have right now, and then I'm going to change this. Let me do that light, and then I'm going to change this to dark. So the moment I make this a darker color, you're going to see the contrast between the two different colors. So if you have this as a dark color, a light color, and then up here you're going to need to put in. I can decide to introduce in a third color, because already now I have 1, 2, but the third color can be in the same family, or they should just be close to each other. They should not be far apart. So I'm going to use a color called lino gray. So that means if you look at this, all the colors are similar. They're not so far from each other. They're almost same, almost colors in the same family. Or you could even decide to use here dark and use here dark. If you use here dark, then you have light. I don't know. Let me just try this and see. And then here, I'll put here my dark color. Let me see. If I have here, okay, if I have here light, then this is going to be dark, light, dark, lino gray. Yeah. So I'll make this a dark color. Yeah, something like this. I'm going to change it to paint 04. And then here I'm going to leave this one light, but this here will be a darker one. And then this dark is going to enter into the other color we have at the front, which is a lighter color. So this will be called lino gray. Okay, once you're done with assigning these colors, you can now go ahead and also do colors at the balcony. For example, this balcony here is going to be a white color. So I'm going to change this to, let me just adjust this one. In there, we need to have some white. So I'm going to use a white called glossy paint white. The same applies to this. I'm going to use a paint called glossy white. And then also here, I'm going to use a glossy white. And now there's one common problem that usually happens. And actually, I thank God it came up. You see now here, sometimes you want this part, this paint to move seamlessly, to blend with this part here. But you find out that your wall inside is blocking it. If this ever happens to you, what you need to do is go to the settings of this particular wall. And then there's something down here called end surface override using adjoining walls. And then there's also align texture to all edges. So you turn these both on, turn this and this on. When you come back to your model, your wall will pick the properties of the other surface automatically. So that is easy peasy. And that thing can bother you. Like it can disorganize you for even 10 minutes on a project. Yeah. So at least we can begin from here tomorrow, and we do what? And we do a render for this from start to finish.